and welcome to another episode of Voice in the Middle, coming to you live with my cat. It is close to their feeding time, so they are jumping up and down. So you may see them being a little bit active right now. But anyway, if you're first time to the channel, a couple of things what this channel is about. We look at the current social and political issues that are going on affecting our nation currently, and we do our best to really try to examine those from a middle of the road perspective, analyzing both sides of the argument. And just trying to see, is there a better solution than what the media is offering on either side, or the extreme voices that we're simply hearing on either side. Please definitely, if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe. I am shut down on Facebook as far as being able to promote this channel currently. Was being able to promote it without issue. Then there was an identification issue, which that was resolved. And now they're no longer letting me promote it because it deals with political and social issues. And they say they lock that for a month for everybody. What I don't understand is my first 3 videos, I was able to promote under social and political issues. Like I had it listed as a social political issue. And then suddenly I'm not able to anymore. So as a new channel starting out, I don't have the organic traffic yet. So if you watch this video, if you like the approach, watch my previous videos, please like and share, like the page, share the video to your friends, let them know, hey, this is a new perspective. This is something that, is worthwhile. I talk to a lot of people with my job from across the country every day. And one thing I honestly hear the majority of the time is people are fed up with the fact we're really only giving 2 extreme narratives to choose from. And there's not a narrative in the middle we can try to hold on to at least try to find some sort of compromise to where we can get rid of this polarization that we find ourselves in. So again, please like and subscribe, and let's get started. So I want to talk about today, December 8th, which is called Safe Harbor Day. And essentially what this day is, it's kind of the last day that typically in the past that you could really challenge any election results, that all suits kind of had to have been submitted and resolved by now, because this is when stuff has to get pushed up to the House. And in fact, there was a lawsuit earlier in the day. I do not believe the appeals court has ruled on it yet, saying they basically were done reviewing it because we've hit a deadline, December 8th. And I want to talk about that a little bit and what I feel about this. Because back in Bush versus Gore, oddly enough, Republicans were super happy about Safe Harbor Day because it ended the lawsuit from the Gore campaign, because they were like, nope, sorry, we're done. And the Gore campaign argued back then, like, no, we're dealing with a presidential election. We shouldn't have a deadline that we have to meet if we think that the count is wrong. And now it's just the opposite. Republicans are like, yeah, this date doesn't matter. And Democrats are, absolutely it does. So it's amazing how with everything, as soon as something benefits one side to another, the scripts flip, which we're used to seeing. There are a couple of distinctions, though, about this and why I don't necessarily like this judge's ruling. In Bush versus Gore, what we really were dealing with at the time was ballot recounts. There really wasn't necessarily it wasn't necessarily a case of fraud. It was hanging chads. And I'm not going to go into hanging chads. If you don't remember hanging chads or you don't know what a hanging chad is, just Google search Florida hanging chad and you can find all the information about that. Well, what had kind of happened in Bush versus Gore is we'd been through a number of recounts, a number of observations already. And essentially the judge finally said, enough is enough. We've examined this. We've looked at it. And at this point, we're not going to entertain any future lawsuits. The investigations have run their course and we're kind of done. That's very different than the scenarios that we're dealing with right now. Essentially right now, what is happening is we're in unprecedented waters as far as what the challenges to the election. This isn't simply votes. We weren't sure how to read them, so maybe they were cast to the wrong person. This is votes were purposely switched, or votes were purposely added, or people that shouldn't have voted did vote. So we're kind of dealing with a different scenario. And the reason why I don't like this deadline is because of this. To really investigate this, and if you watch my previous channels, all right, and I'll say it here in case our previous videos, and I'll say it here again if you haven't. I am not saying fraud occurred in this election and President Trump actually won. I'm also saying fraud did not occur. What I am saying is there is a lot of smoke, and there's a lot of smoke that warrants investigation. But the problem is investigations take a while. When you're talking about needing to potentially do forensic audits on voting machines and see if those machines were either tampered with or they were able to be abused or misused in a way to totally flip what the actual election results are. That is not simply a matter of picking up a ballot and looking at it and saying yes or no, right? Yes, it was for this person. No, it wasn't. Yes, it was intentionally cast for this person. No, it wasn't. In fact, what happened in Bush versus Gore, a lot of the changes we've made since then eliminate a lot of this. A lot of ballots across the board now, it's pretty distinct, usually, on what someone who they meant to vote for, right? So what we're dealing with now is potentially votes potentially purposely being changed, not just a matter of we're not sure what the person actually voted for. So those investigations take time. The lawsuit in Georgia, if it's the one, and I didn't see which one was not, which one was denied. But the only one that I know of from Susan Powell that was still active in Georgia dealt with mail-in ballots and when they were received. And essentially, there was 90,000 some mail-in ballots that were received back to the election center within 72 hours of being mailed. Some of them the first day, some of them within 24 hours. Now, I don't know about you, but if I go and put something in the mail today, I am not going to get a response back in the mail in the same day. It's not possible. It doesn't happen. So these are ballots that were counted, that were mailed and received the same day or within 72 hours. That was basically being saying, hey, we need to look at this. We need to investigate this and see why. And effectively, that's being dismissed because we're now on Safe Harbor Day. There's no more time. Well, these investigations take time. The other thing that we also have to remember is you can't just put things directly up to the Supreme Court. In fact, one of Trump's lawsuits tried to do that. Is they try to bypass the lower courts, bypass the district courts, and go directly to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. You have to follow a process. So what we have is we have a process that goes through and takes time. Because you have to remember, these lawsuits are filed. Then the judge rules whether or not they will take up the lawsuit. Then the judge has to give time for discovery. They have to give time for the opposition to create their briefs. Then they have to give time for the counsel to prepare against those briefs. Then they set a trial. Then sometimes after the trial, it takes days before they reach a conclusion. And you have to wait until that conclusion has been reached before you can file an appeal. So by having December 8th, especially in cases like this, basically being this is the last day we can do anything, right? We're not going to listen to any court cases after this. What that essentially means is that you could commit fraud in an election, all right, potentially, and you could delay doing anything. You could appeal everything long enough that when December 8th rolls around, sorry, too late, we're not going to hear any more court cases. And that's really the danger about this deadline and the danger of these judges ruling based solely on this deadline. This wasn't a ruling based on the merits of the case. This wasn't a ruling based on they didn't have evidence or that they hadn't provided the right testimony. This was solely because we reached December 8th. So I'm not going to listen to the case anymore. And we don't need that. We are a fractured and divided country. We are a fractured and divided nation. And there is a good portion of this country right now that believes that fraud occurred in this election. And you need to do one of two things. You either need to allow the investigations to play their part and go through the process to prove fraud did not occur, or you need to let these investigations play their part and prove fraud did occur so we can undo that. Because as much as people talk about the disenfranchised voters and Republicans are trying to disenfranchise the voters that voted, in some cases, I'll be honest, I feel like that is what they're trying to do. In other cases, though, that's not. In other cases, what they're arguing is, but this isn't actually what the voters wanted. So by not investigating these allegations, by not investigating this smoke, right, you're potentially disenfranchising the legitimate voters out there. What you're doing is you're upholding the illegitimate, the fraudulent voters, and you're disenfranchising the people that legitimately voted and legitimately follow the rules and that cast their ballots the right way. And so I really hope the courts allow this to completely play out, that they make their rulings based on the evidence being presented to them, not simply an arbitrary date. Because what that essentially means is that the statute of limitations for an election that determines the president of the United States is roughly only 35 days or so. Like that's not enough time in some cases. We need more time. Now, I do want to say that I do agree with the judge, though, in this regard, that I think a lot of these lawsuits were handled initially in the wrong way. I think they were written the wrong way. What you need to understand is, as much as the media is harping constantly about, Trump lost, this lawsuit, Trump lost this lawsuit, these lawsuits are being squashed. I don't know off the top of my head of any lawsuits that have actually been completely dismissed, except for one. I'll go over that one really quick today, based on the actual merits and the evidence of the lawsuit. Most of them were being dismissed based on technicalities. So in other words, you're not actually allowed to bring suit in this scenario because you weren't directly affected by this. You would need to be a resident of the state that brings suit. Or in some cases, it was just the Trump campaign just completely filing the lawsuit the wrong way. Is they turned around and initially were filing these suits as fraud occurred, overturn the election, instead of filing it under the premise of there are discrepancies here that are very serious that are not being investigated, and we want the court to step in and order an investigation into this. So essentially what they did is they presupposed what the outcome of those investigations would be and asked the court to rule based on what the outcome of the investigation is before the investigation took place. Listen, there's the old saying, where there is smoke, there is fire. And there is a lot of smoke right now, all right? If you turn off the media, okay, like do your own investigation, do your own research into these different lawsuits, into the different evidence being presented, okay? Don't play into the media bias on this, all right? And also don't play into the Democrat or even the Republican bias, because the Republican bias, my own party, is saying fraud did occur. Well, we don't know yet. What we do know is there is a lot of smoke, all right? But sometimes if you see smoke in the distance, it looks like it's a big house fire. You drive down that direction, you see it's just a wood fire that is just burning really black smoke, right? Yes, smoke means that there's something there. But is that something enough to change the outcome of the election? Or is that something it actually was just an anomaly of a data set? Now, personally, based on the information being presented to us, do I believe it's just an anomaly? No, I don't. But because no investigations have been able to take place, we don't know the answer to that. For all I know, some of these numbers could be completely made up. Now, I personally don't believe that's the case, but we haven't had any investigations to either disprove the narrative being presented or prove the narrative. And to me, that is the biggest concern. So if you're watching this video, if you care whatsoever about the sanctity of the election, whether you're on the right or the left, honestly, press your local leaders, press your congressman, your senator, to make sure investigations are allowed to take place and run its course, all right? For 3 years, we dealt with investigations assuming Trump was guilty until he was proven innocent. And even when he was proven innocent, he wasn't proven innocent. I'm talking about Russian collusion. And the entire purpose of that, the Democrat narrative was to ensure the integrity of our elections, right? And the media, without knowing any evidence, without knowing what the reasoning was behind it, they supported this narrative 100%. But now that narrative does not fit the agenda of the mainstream media anymore, or prominent celebrities or Democrats, it's completely changed. It's fraud has to be proven, but we're also not going to give you the resources to prove fraud. We're not going to actually do the recounts you're just simply requesting and just doing it for you to ensure the validity of the election. We're going to deny that. And so you have to somehow prove this without having access to the evidence to prove it or disprove it. So that should concern you. If you're a Democrat and you're watching this, or if you're a moderate independent to the left and you're watching this and you voted for Joe Biden and you believe he's president, you did not believe fraud occurred, awesome. You should still be petitioning your representative saying, hey, you know what though? There is enough smoke here. And we allowed for 3.5 years the smoke of Russian collusion to be investigated. We need to allow the smoke of potential voter fraud to be investigated as well. So as always, this is Dustin from Voice in the Middle. Please, again, if you like this video, if you like what I had to say, if you like the perspective I had, please like, subscribe, and share. This is a channel that I'm passionate about. I'm tired of being someone that just complains about the narratives we're fed. And this is the best way I can do something about it, is to be a voice of reason, be the voice in the middle. But I need your help I need your help for that, especially since I'm not able to promote the channel right now. And being a foster parent, working full time, being in my apartment where I'm recording from my studio with cats running around, I don't have the time to, invest tons of time into this. I don't have a lot of free time. So the time I do invest in this is precious, and I want this to reach as many people as possible. And I've been willing to invest the time I need, the finances I need to get this channel started, to get the right equipment to do this, to try to learn a little bit of video editing. And so if you like this, please like, share, subscribe, and I will see you guys again soon.